Let's talk about the 3 parts to every NCLEX question. Right. This is very important because your NCLEX question is different from what your nursing school question. That's what you need to know. Right. That's the reason why a lot of students don't know how to interpret NCLEX question. Right. Every NCLEX question, most especially the 85 to 150 question, include these 3 parts. So what are they? We have the body, we have the stem, and then we have the answer keys. Right. So you will see this. The reason why you need to know this, you might be asking, why should I know this? Right. The reason why you need to know this is because that is how you are going to break down the question. Right. Not only this is how you're going to break down the question, this is how the CAT also sort out the question in order to give you right on the exam. Because the CAT have to look at what? The NCLEX test plan. The CAT needs to scan through the NCLEX test plan and look for the particular question related to a specific category, then give that to you so that you can answer it. Right. So that's how the CAT work. Now, the body of the question, because a lot of students will see the NCLEX question, most especially I talk about standalone question all the time. The reason why I talk about standalone question all the time is because you will have 70% of standalone question on the exam. Right. Along the line, I would show you different NCLEX style question, but let's focus on standalone, right? Because you can easily identify what? The body, the stem, and the answer key from there. And not only that, that is 70%. Right. Other NCLEX style question you can identify as well too, the body, stem, answer keys. Right. So now, the body of the question, a lot of students, when they see their question, they will say, they don't know what the NCLEX is asking. Now, anytime student is saying something like that, I already know the problem because you cannot go on the NCLEX exam and tell me you don't know what the NCLEX is asking. Because initially, if you understand the 3 parts to every NCLEX question, right, and you understand how to break down the question, you should know that the body of the question includes the content. Right. It's just like you're in nursing school, right? You're about to take a test, and then your lecturer now said, okay, guys, let us do respiratory disorder, right? For tomorrow test. Now, every of your studying will be focused on what? Respiratory disorder, right? You are not going to read about cardiovascular disorder. You are not going to read about neurological disorder. You are only going to focus on what? Respiratory disorder. So that is how the NCLEX work as well too. Right. The NCLEX know in nursing school you have a lot of knowledge, but they want to test you on specific knowledge. So that is the reason why they created this test plan, which have for RN 146 content and for PN 150 content. Mind you, the content number might change because they update this test plan regularly. Right. But for now, it's still 146, 150. Right. So these are the content. Now, that is what you are going to see when you read the body of your question. So your initial phase in your preparation should include what? Knowing what? The NCLEX content. Because I cannot imagine myself going on the NCLEX exam and I don't know the content. Right. So the initial thing is for me to know the content. Right. I cannot imagine myself going to a certain location and I don't have a clear direction. How will I be able to get here? It all works like that, right? Now, I want to know the content because once I know the content, I can now start thinking through, right? From the now, a lot of students say most of those things I saw on the NCLEX exam, I don't really know it. If you initially study the NCLEX test plan, right? You cannot go on the NCLEX exam and say you don't you don't know the content, or you were unable to identify the content, because NCLEX don't set question outside this content. So the only problem would be if you study the content, but on the day of the exam, you did not remember anything, right? That can be the only problem. But guess what? That will not be a problem that will cause you what to fail. Because even if you don't remember all, trust me, you will remember 75% of information, which is very much enough to help you pass the NCLEX exam in 85 questions. Right. So now the content is very important. Now, when you cover the content, when you see that NCLEX question, you can easily be able to tell and say, okay, from the body of the question, this is what the NCLEX is testing me. Right. That is how the body of the question works. Now, the stem, which is the second part of the question, is the examiner question. Now, your lecturer said, tomorrow prepare for what? Respiratory disorder exam. Yes, we know the lecturer is going to test us on what? Respiratory disorder. But we don't know what the question that that the lecturer is going to set. Now, guess what? Most students will start sourcing out for what? Past question. Right? In order to what? Study for what? Respiratory disorder. Right. That way, if you include your studying, right, for respiratory disorder plus past question, then guess what? You feel confidence, ready in order to take the exam. That is how the NCLEX work as well too. When you know the content, right, you know how the NCLEX write the question, the two together will give you that ability to be able to what? Break down what? Your answer keys. Right. So you are not going to now be between, because a lot of students will say, I'm between 1 and 3. I'm between 2 and 4. I'm between 1 and 2. I'm between 3 and 4. No. Or you say, I'm between A and C. I'm between A and B. I'm between D and C. No. You will be clear, because this is what I offer my students, the 3 C's, which is what? Clarity, confidence, and setting. Right. Clarity, we now know the content, because now you are going to look at the NCLEX question, and then you will say, okay, this particular question is testing us on this. So you have clarity. Now, because you have clarity towards that question, you automatically what? Feel confidence. Because now, before, if you like see your NCLEX question, guess what? How are you feeling towards it? You say, oh my God, I don't know this. I did not see this among the question bank I've been answering. You are worried. So that way, because you have no clarity, you don't end up feeling what? Confident. Right. So now when you select a particular answer, you are not certain. You just selected an answer just to move on. That is not how I want you to select answer. Now, I want you to have clarity, because you know the content, you know how NCLEX write the question. Now you feel confident in breaking down the answer keys. And then when you select a certain answer, you are certain about it. You see how that works? Right. So this is what I'm giving to you now. Right. So now, because most of us might not know how the NCLEX work, right? Even myself, initially, I did not know how the NCLEX work, but I knew the content. So my whole goal was, okay, if I can get NCLEX past questions to see how the NCLEX tests each of those content, right? So then I did my analysis with what? 1,940 NCLEX past question. And I noticed something, and I saw that when NCLEX is writing the stem, right, most of them are similar to each other. And I noticed that, wow, so we have 1,940 questions, but there's only 62 ways NCLEX write the stem. So it means that when you go on the NCLEX exam, if I tell you you are going to see this writing style, you are going to see it multiple times on the NCLEX exam. So guess what? If initially we know how the NCLEX write the question, we know the content that will be on the exam, then automatically we know the kind of answers to expect on the exam. So a lot of students will ask me, why is it that many of your students end up passing the NCLEX exam after finishing your program. This is the reason why, because automatically we already know the content. We know how the NCLEX will write the question, because I have broken down 1,940 past question related to the NCLEX. These are past questions from the NCLEX. These are not question banks. I don't do question banks, right? And I saw that they have 62 ways of writing the question. I was thinking there are various ways, right? Like, for example, let me give you an example now. NCLEX might want to test you about intervention, right? Plan of care. Now you'll find out that intervention can be tested 8 times. And you'll be like, wow, it's still the same stem that is used to test you on what? Alzheimer's disease. That same stem is testing you on what? COPD. That same stem question is testing you on what? Multiple sclerosis. So there are different topics or different disease, but same NCLEX stem question. You see what I'm trying to say? So now if you understand the kind of answer that those questions add, right? And you were able to like do your analysis, and you're like, okay, anytime NCLEX asks about intervention, these are the kind of answers you are going to be selecting. That way, you are prepared for the NCLEX exam, because that is the same mindset you are going to take on the NCLEX exam. And trust me, even if you are not so clear about it, you cannot be you are going to be 90% at least clear about it. If you are not 99% clear about it, right, you are going to be 90% clear about it. So there's no chance of you failing the NCLEX exam if you follow what? This routine, right? So the 3 parts to the question, remember: the body, the stem, and then the answer keys, right? So okay, let me show you the body, the stem, the answer keys. Now, look at how it look like. You have what? Your body right here. You have your stem. So something is like this, right? And then you have your answer key. This is a standalone question, right? So this is the body. Now, the first thing you want to do is to identify the body when you are taking your NCLEX exam. So now you look at the body. Okay, all right, okay. Then you identify what? The content NCLEX is testing. Now you read the stem. Right, we've gone over what? The 62 ways NCLEX write the question. So you look at it and you say, you identify it, and then you're like, okay, if NCLEX write the question like this is what they are really asking about this. So now you are not going to go and do what? Break down the what? The answer keys. Then when you break it down, right, most especially I do elimination. I look for the wrong answer for some. I say, okay, this wrong, and then 2 is correct. So yeah, I select my answer and then I move, right? This way you can never, I repeat, you can never fail the NCLEX exam. Right. You need to follow this approach when you are reading your NCLEX question. Don't just jump into conclusion and read your NCLEX question. It means you don't understand how the NCLEX work. When I see students just reading the question so fast, I know they don't understand. If you cannot really understand what the NCLEX is testing here, and then go to the STEM to try to understand the question, and then come and break the answer key one after the other, because a lot of students will read all the answer keys before they select answer. No, you need to break down number 1 to be sure if it is correct. Yes, no, maybe. If it is a yes, then that is your correct answer. If it's a no, then you exit out. If it's a maybe, put question mark. You are going to come back to it. Then before you proceed to what? Question 2. Option 2, I mean. Option 3 and option 4. Don't just read everything, because you are going to have what? Confusion. NCLEX write answer key to cause what? Confusion. You don't want to fall for that. Right. So that is how you approach the NCLEX question. Now, last thing I'm going to say is this. Sometimes when you read the body of your question, it will not be so clear. The content will not be so clear, right? So next thing, just read the stem. Read the stem, right? Now, because you might be struggling with identifying the content, you might not really understand it, but read the stem. The stem should really let you know the content that the NCLEX is testing based on the information the body have already. Now, link the stem to it and then think about it and say, okay, what is the stem saying? If you don't understand from the body, look at the stem and ask yourself, what's the stem saying? Now, if you don't understand from the STEM as well too, then 100% the answer key is going to expose what the NCLEX is testing, the content the NCLEX is testing. The answer key is going to expose it. So somehow, anyhow, your content, you are going to know it. You are going to know the content the NCLEX is testing. In as much you've done this initial part, which is what? To identify what? Your content. So if you are doing the NCLEX RN, get the NCLEX test plan for RN, right? And study the content. If you are doing the NCLEX-PN, get the content for what? The NCLEX-PN, and as well to study the content. So I'm going to link the test plan. Or I'm going to link the test plan as part of what? This as part of the document you need to download, right? I'm going to link the test plan below, right? So you can check the test plan link below, right? In order to download, if you've not downloaded it as at yet, right? The RN and then the PN test plan, right? And then I'm also going to link the NCLEX past question for RN and as well to for PN. And I'm going to link what? Your bow tie and case study past question as well too. So check below in order to get the link and then download this document, because they are going to help you what? In passing the NCLEX exam in 85 questions.